nothing there is on this in terms of documentation. I wrote to Kevin Brown when I said, you interviewed everybody from the silent film era you could find. Did anybody talk about this? No. I've gone through some trade things, books on how to act in pictures, nothing. There are things where clearly we know that these films were, even from those trade things I showed you, that these films were meant to be shown at 24 frames. We know that films were shown even faster than that. Philip will back me up on this, that the Eastman Theater, they would often run films at 27 frames per second because every feature film had to last 70 minutes. They would cut out a reel and run it faster. And I found something in a trade journal from the head projectionist who just basically outlined how they would break down a 2-hour show by cutting a reel, running this faster. People were used to seeing that. If you see early, late silence that were issued with the track, you'll see some of them are rather fast. Nobody was going to throw everybody a curveball. Oh, yes, we'll release Don Juan with a Vitaphone track. Oh, wait a minute, it looks too fast. That'll totally throw people. People were clearly used to seeing that. The fact that, we've seen the jazz singers basically in Undercranking silent film, except when Jolson is singing it. He's so animated in real time anyway, it's a very smooth transition. The Undercranking went on, we've all seen it in films of the 30s. I managed to catch some of the Champ on TCM 7 months ago, and all or most of the boxing sequences are Undercrank. People were used to seeing things that way. And yet, there are things in trades where people are complaining about overspeeding, and things are being run too fast. I was talking to Bob Birch, who mentioned that we're talking about the Cracker Jack, which is available, but he said that for the first time he saw was at one of the Senate conventions, and Johnny Hines was there, and he said, Bob said the film was really just running slow and just not playing well, and they kept encouraging the projectionist to run it faster and faster, so it would work. And Hines was complaining that they were running it too fast. So what was actually happening? There's so many conflicting things, and yet a lot of the Hines pictures, a lot of the comedy and action pictures don't really hold up so well if you run them at a slower frame rate. And then there are things like there's an interview with, I think it's Carl Brown in The Parade's Gone By, where he talks about being at a screening of Flesh and the Devil, where when John Gilbert is trying to get back to Greta Garbo, and he's imagining her name, Felicitas, which you see on the screen. And it was run so slow that the rhythm of the joke, not joke, but of the concept didn't work. Felicitas. And you see horses and trains, and it just didn't make any sense, and it has to be run faster. So it's hard to because there's no documentation. At the same time, I can't think of any other reason. It's the only thing I can think of that makes sense. And the other thing that we have is Chaplin could absolutely have shot City Lights in modern times at 24 frames per second. I think that a good deal of Chaplin's persona and what we think of him comes from this technique. The dancerly qualities, the split-second timing, a lot of the most iconic sequences from his films are things that can only exist in this sped-up world, like the boxing match, like many other parts of like the mutuals we saw, and tons of things from modern times. I want to close. I know I'm going to go over by a few minutes, but I want to show you. This is 1936. The silent era is over. Chaplin. This is his last chance. He's going to get it right. And this is a page. You have which is the version that has these on it? I know some of these pages are on DVD.
It's the Image DVD that David Shepard produced.
Okay, so that definitely has this stuff on it. And it has the sequences from pages from the shooting script, which says cranking at 18. And some of them are retyped. Cranking at 18, cranking at 18, cranking at 16, cranking at 16. So this is... we're going to take a look at a sequence from modern times when Charlie loses his mind. And we're going to look at it first in real-time speed. Unless, no, we just lost something. Well, there's a slide.
Yeah.
All right, let's try it again. Here we go. Is it rolling?
Not yet.
All right. All right, let's go one more time. Let's reload it. I can't tell. Oh, we may have to.
Go ahead.
Was it?
Click it. You're running.
Yeah, here we go. All right.
Oh,
Thank
There
you.
you go.
All right, here we are at real-time speed. We all know here. And you can see he's sort of lumbering along, and you can almost see that the levers are just the weight that they actually have and how long it's taking. One of the things you can see in real time is what Charlie is doing. If you really take a good look, he's not really making contact with those spanners and the bolts. But when it's sped up, you know, you just see the quick motion. Again, you'll see when he points at Chaplin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's repeating the motions over and over and over. He could just do once or twice, but so that there's definition and you can see with the speed that the conveyor belt was actually running. And again, this is not a guesstimate. We know exactly what speed this was shot at because Chaplin kept records. And you watch Tiny Sanford, he's crazy. And watch, this is the thing, this is a bit of logic. And you can see Chaplin's completely missing the bolts. Watch, it's the reason that Chaplin goes down is that he holds up both hands to go, hey. Which makes no sense. Nobody hears me, I'll let go of the guy who I'm trying to save from killing himself and yell with both hands. Now, this is something that amazed me. Let's take a look. When Chaplin, or whoever that actually is, goes in, he's going to go down, under, and you'll see him grab onto something here. He grabs onto something that pulls him up and over the next gear. And he's carefully covering his face, so that may very well not be Mr. Chaplin doing that stunt. You see how long it takes. And the spanners are bigger than the bolts, so even if he's not really making contact, it still looks like he's tightening something. We all know this is reverse motion. Still reverse motion here. You see those pauses he puts in. Now, he could have gotten out of the way, but he's standing there and waiting for it. And that's, again, a collaboration. Each of them knows when they get their nose tweaked, bounce back. And watch, Chaplin, this sort of dancing that he does, he's just skipping around a little bit. It's nothing that complicated. Again, how slow this is in real time. Again, he flails them back and forth several times, so it reads. And he's really not making that much contact with the fire hydrant. And here comes our friend. See how put together? She's very still, very stately, very, very solid. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, back and forth to show us what he's doing. So our eyes go to that. Now in this shot, all of a sudden she's a very different look. It takes quite a while to get around the corner and caught up to the policeman. Hey, you. Again, he's waving. He waves him 2 or 3 times. I'm just going to move on to projection speed because we get the idea here. Again, here we are back at 24. And so these all seem like they're quick snaps. We saw how fast things actually moved in real time. And again, we're just seeing his hands quickly snap at things. So the fact that he's missing the bolts part of the time, we don't see that at all. It's happening, again, those are quick movements that get erased or you don't see them. And Tiny is completely missing half of the bolts. He's just going bam, bam, bam. And we're not really paying attention to that, again. It's a flurry of activity that's happening here. He's completely missing the bolt, and he's just diving in this way. Again, we totally buy the reality of what's about to happen. All we know is that Charlie just slips away and goes down, but it's because Tiny let go to yell louder with two hands. Again, here, he just sort of slides through. I never saw him grab onto that wire until I slowed it down and zoomed in. But again, because they knew that when they sped it up, no one would see that. They knew they could create that, do it something carefully, choreograph it carefully, and through speeding it up, it would absolutely come back in there. And this just seems, you don't see the pauses, it's just boom, boom. Again, one and two, and it really seems like he's dancing around. We saw it's just very simple movements for him. And you add the music, and it just seems like this manic ballet. There's more to this, but I know we have to wrap things up. A couple of things I want to cover, just in wrapping up. For those of you who find certain DVDs that you get seem to be a little slow, there's this wonderful piece of freeware, although they now seem to, on the upper right-hand corner, you can see that they're encouraging you to donate. But a VLC media player plays anything, and it's the closest thing to having variable speed playback. There is in addition to double speed and half speed, there's a fine-tuning that you can set faster fine and slower fine in increments of 10, 20, 30% faster and slower, and it does not affect the sound. It doesn't speed it up or slow it down. So if you have that DVD from wherever and it seems a little sluggish, you can speed it up 10% and enjoy it. I have found that in discussing this and shooting several tests with friends of mine who are clowns, and where we would shoot something, watch it sped up, and reshoot it over and over, really about the 7th or 8th take, we would have something where it actually looked like a silent movie. Because we had put in pauses and carefully choreographed things. And there were two things that I got out of this. One is that one of my friends said it felt like performing for a huge house or a huge theater or a huge circus. Because in order to make your movements readable and have them defined well enough to be read at the back of a huge house, you would move a little slower and put in definition, put in pauses, and repeat things. This is something that most silent film comedians and actors had in their bones when they got into pictures, having been in vaudeville, in the circus, and the theater. And at some point, it just sort of kicked in. We have no idea how or why, but I start seeing it somewhere in the early to mid-teens. That you can start running films faster and still be able to read them. The other thing that came out of shooting these tests was one of my friends, one of my clown friends. We were watching this stuff, like on the 7th take, and when we got to a point where it really looked like a silent movie with the movement, we watched it first in real time, and then again sped up, and we watched it in real time. She looked at herself and my other friend, and she said, "God, what's wrong with these people? They have no sense of timing." And I realized, they had to have two senses of timing. One of how to time it a certain way so they would look like something else sped up. While I'm not advocating for, there's a certain, we all have our own versions of what we think is the right speed. The thing is that silent films were run faster, and I'm convinced that everybody who made the films were aware of that and adjusted themselves so that when the films were run faster, they would still look readable. I have more studies like this online. at youtube.com/silentfilmspeed. I appreciate, we don't have time for questions, but I'll be around. I want to thank Rob and Rachel and everybody here for asking me to give this talk. I hope this was interesting and informational, and I thank you very much.